kind of service might be helpful or if they even want it. We inflict ourselves on the people we want to help without making them participants in the process. And it's not out of a desire to harm. It's not out of any negative thing. It's just because we don't know, and we struggle with all the things that people struggle with as we try to learn how to serve God and serve one another. Just in this small community, a couple hundred of us learning how to serve one another. We are citizens and we are undocumented in this congregation. We are from Ghana, we are from Germany, we are from Jamaica, we are from the continental U.S., we are from Puerto Rico, we are probably some people from Canada, we might be from other places, all here in this congregation, right here and right now. We are native English speakers and we are not native English speakers. We are every piece of the community, and that is the power of this congregation. When everybody's hand went down, when I said, have you seen another church like this one? That's the power of this congregation. If I wanted to go to a congregation where everybody looked like me, made the same kind of money I did, had the same kind of pedigree I did, everything was the same as me, I know where to go. And I'm not there. And there's a reason why I'm not there, because this is my community. There is no them in service. I want to say that again. There is no them in service. If I'm doing something to be of service to John, he's not a they that I'm serving. He's not some just caricature, unknown person. He's somebody in my community who I'm being of service to, and vice versa. It's a personal relationship when we're of service to one another. And to borrow a phrase, and this may go over like a lead balloon, but whatever, we are the 99%. Here, now, in this congregation, and we are the 1%. We are all of us in this, trying to learn how to serve God and serve others in this place, in this time, and so that we can take what we learn out and maybe give some answers to those bigger societal questions that some of us are called to deal with. Now, there's this thing going on in a couple of weeks down on Freedom Plaza. Right? Doing church outside. My one experience with doing church outside was awful. When I was interim pastor down in Fredericksburg, it rained, and it was cold, and it was miserable, and it was May, and it was not supposed to be like that. That's why I'm not in charge of this, because I hope to keep the bad weather genies away. We'll just keep the bad weather genies away. But guess who's there? If you've been by Freedom Plaza this morning, this past week, if you've been by McPherson Square this morning, this past week, there are folks there. And they're living there. And it's not just our regular DC folks living there. I mean, we're used to dealing with the regular guys we see out on the streets. These are new people living out in Freedom Plaza. These are new people living in McPherson Square, and they may not be expecting a church to descend upon them on a Sunday morning. I mean, think about it. These guys are probably not thinking, oh, gee, I wonder what church is going to come down this Sunday. I mean, they're going to be expecting us to be there. And we have an amazing opportunity. I mean, think about it. When we started planning this, and I don't know when, I haven't been in on the planning process for this, when we started planning this outdoor church thing at the end of October, were we really expecting it to be occupied by 100, 200, 300 people just like hanging out that we'd have to push out of the way to have church? No, it was going to be us. We're beautiful, we were just going to be blue skies and shiny and a bunch of MCC church folks down there, just yay, And now we have all these people. And God works in this really spectacular and amazing way, because we have these folks with the courage of their convictions sleeping outside. Whether you agree with them or disagree with them, it doesn't matter, because our job is to serve God and to serve one another and to bring the message of God's love to anybody that we come into contact with. And so we've got these couple dozen, couple hundred folks who will be there, and it will be colder, and they will be messier than they are now. What happens when you sleep outside for a while? It's not pretty, right? It just doesn't matter. You can't really wash the funk off once a week doesn't really do it, And so these are going to be folks who may not have any church connection at all. We don't know if they're gay or straight or bi or trans. We don't have any idea who they are or where they come from. They may be white, they may be black, they may be Latino, they may be American, they may not be from the States. They may be really dirty, really stinky, not pretty like we are on Sunday mornings here at 11 o'clock, and we are beautiful. I mean, look at us. I mean, we are beautiful. What are we bringing to them? And what can we learn from them in that time that we are in the same place? Can we bring communion to the folks in McPherson Square after church on a Sunday morning and just offer it? Here's God's love. Pray for you, pray for me. How simple a gesture is that? How simple can it be to serve one another? I love this congregation. I do. And I love this congregation because of our differences. And as we learn to love each other, to serve each other, to hear each other, this is where I come from. This is what's important to me. And I won't stay if you don't address it. We've always been able to address it. We've always been able to keep our family together. People scatter, whatever. But the core of what this congregation is, that cross-section of this community here in Washington, D.C., has always remained solid, and we are not perfect. If anybody here tells you they're perfect, they are lying. I know them. I know these people. They are not perfect. I am not perfect. My view is not, this was not approved by the board, this was not approved by the senior pastor. This is just my sermon, my take on what I see here as God communicates to me. And we don't always know how to best serve one another, but this is the cauldron where we can try. This is the place where we can try to learn how to do that. We don't always know what belongs to Caesar. We don't always know what belongs to God. But I believe that if we're willing to wrestle with the questions of how to best serve one another, of how to best listen to each other, of how to best be present to one another in our joys and in our sorrows, and if we do that honestly, openly, transparently, willingly, that we will be a place where anyone who comes through that door, no matter who they are, will say, I've got a home here. Because they'll listen to me, and they'll pay attention to me, and they're not looking at the car I drive. They don't care if I'm driving a Lexus or taking the bus home. They don't care. They're looking for what's deeper. They're looking for the gifts that God gives, not the gifts that the world gives. I'm going to do a self-confession lest you think that I come at... There are some folks who think that when you preach about, money, and you preach about, learning to care for each other, and you preach about everything being fair, that you must not have anything. All right? I've experienced that here. People have come up to me and assume that I must just be this poor pastor. I'm not. I make 6 figures. I have a career. I don't get paid anything for being here. And I am no different than a ton of people here in the same boat. I don't have $1 million house. We could do another sermon about the difference between wealth and income. That's a whole different sermon. All right? But I don't come at this from a place of saying, I don't have anything, give me yours. I'm fine. What I'm talking about is how we serve one another. What can I do to serve everyone in this congregation, and what can they do to serve me? We all have something to give, and we all have something to learn. And I know as well as anyone knows that the job could be going like that. Because I've experienced that in my life. I know as well as anyone that I could pick up a drink tomorrow. I'm 18 years sober, and it could all go to hell. Right there and right then. I know how fickle life can be, and that's when community is the most important. That we know each other, and we are honest with each other, and we are real with each other about the things that are good and the things that are bad. I've been on a roll. It's really hot up here. When this time of year, when the sun just kind of beats down on this side of the congregation, everybody kind of moves over to this side. It is. There's a little migration that happens. I want to encourage all of us to be open to God's answers. Just like we're open to God's moving in this worship service we've got going on in 2 weeks. When God moves, you can't avoid it. Those folks are not clearing out between now and 2 weeks from now. They are going to be there. So what can we do? What can we learn from them? How can we serve them? And I want to close with two things. And they're two things that have really, really driven me over the years, and I know drive a lot of you. If you hear the gospel of Jesus Christ, the message of Jesus Christ, and it does not challenge every piece of who you are every day, you did not hear the gospel. The gospel does not comfort. I mean, it can when it needs to. But the gospel challenges us to live differently. The gospel challenges us to serve one another and not just stay where everything's good and just build up a little fort around us. The gospel doesn't affirm wealth or poverty. It simply says, be where God puts you, love one another, serve one another. That's what we need to do. So first of all, if you've been here for a while and haven't heard anything that's challenging you, open the Bible. Pick a page. Start reading. You will read something that challenges you. I could whack you over the head with the Bible. I did not bring my whack-a-mole Bible with me. Open Ecclesiastes. We were talking about that before worship service. Open Ecclesiastes, open Proverbs, open Psalms, open Romans, open any piece, and be open to being challenged. And I want to close with this as we move forward with the doorstop in the door. And it's good work. I've always wanted to see this church get outside its walls. It's good work that's being done. Doorstop in the door. What are folks going to find? I want to read something from a man named Oscar Romero. And Oscar Romero was the Archbishop of San Salvador back in the late 70s. And Bishop Romero, so I don't get tripped up on it. Bishop Romero had been a priest for about 30 years and had been a fairly conservative priest in El Salvador. And during the 70s and 80s and even up until now, we all know, or many of us know, that El Salvador was a place where it was dangerous to be alive. There were death squads, people were abducted in the middle of the night, priests were killed on a regular basis. It was a dangerous place to be. And Bishop Romero had been a fairly conservative priest during that time until about 1977 when one of his good friends was killed by one of those death squads. And we know how experiences can change our outlook on God or our outlook on the world. What do they say a Republican is? A Democrat that got mugged. What do they say a Democrat is? A Republican that lost their job. Okay, you can go back and forth and back and forth. Those are stupid jokes, but okay, they're stupid jokes. But experiences, just flat, full stop, stupid jokes. But experience does shape the way we look at the world. And for Bishop Romero, the way he looked at the world was drastically changed by the murder, the assassination of his friend. And he became a force for liberation in that country. He had weekly sermons that would broadcast out on the radio that folks would be drawn to. Bishop Romero was assassinated as he celebrated communion, as he was lifting the cup in March of 1980. He gave his life for the gospel in the most literal way possible. And Bishop Romero had really wonderful views about the churches. I encourage you to take a look at his work when you get the chance. And I just want to close with this. This was much smoother. At the 9 o'clock, I had the little sticky and everything, and then everything just kind of changes. You know, nothing ever works out the way it's supposed to, but it's all in God's time. The church's good name is not a matter of being on good terms with the powerful. I'm going to say that again. The church's good name is not a matter of being on good terms with the powerful. The church's good name is a matter of knowing that the poor regard the church as their own. Of knowing that the church's life on earth is a call on all, on the rich as well, to be converted and to be saved alongside the poor, for they are the only ones called blessed. As we call everyone to conversion in this place, wherever you come from, whatever you have or don't have, may we learn together how to serve one another, how to be in community with one another, that we may all get closer to the glory of God. Amen and amen.